Hello everyone, here we are with Dr. Tom Vinaimont. This is an informal interview about his course on financial modeling and how he transformed his course. He just won the Innovation Teaching Award here at NU. I am super proud because I was part of this process as well. And I would like to just introduce him to you guys. Hello Tom, how are you doing today?
Hello Ricardo, thank you for collaborating on this project. Yeah, I'm proud as well that we have won this.
Yeah, very happy.
All right.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit about the process?
All right, so the idea is that when you teach a class, you start with writing a syllabus or somebody writes a syllabus for you. And it's all loose ends. If you look at the textbook, for instance, it's going to have different chapters and they're somehow connected. But from the perspective of students, sometimes it's difficult to have an idea about what the entire storyline is. So what we thought is we're actually going to build or design a storyline next to the course content. And that's what we did.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a gamified approach to it. Can you tell a little bit about it? Or
Yeah, so we wanted to make it fancy and attractive to the students. So we come up with different media assets. There is one character that is actually the lecturer, but then more or less an avatar of that character. And then there is a character from the Forge, which is some distant organization that reminds us a little bit of open source community. And then we have what I call the cinematography, which is probably what you're most proud of. That is where we went filming and have like short clips that gamify the entire experience for the students.
How do you think the experience went when creating the media assets? Because you drew from local talent as well, and we had to shoot in different places.
Oh, it was a lot of improvising, of course. It's the first time we're setting this type of structure next to a course. So I started off with a scenario, and the scenario is a story about a trading house. And the students enter in that story from the perspective of students, because they are students. And the world is disarray, just like the world was in disarray at that time. And they learn step by step how the trade works. They get into trouble in the story, and then they join the industry, and in the end they have a big party. So we have... and I think now I forgot what you were asking.
Yeah, you went back a little bit, but that's fine. No, we were talking about how was the experience with the people that we worked with that were not from NU, how it was to kind of try to do something that hasn't been done here at NU. And I think that's why you won the award, because it was innovative, it was fresh, had a little bit of flair, in my opinion, of course. But I'm also giving a pat on my back by saying that, because this was something that you allowed me to put a lot of art-based work into it, and like you said, once you gave me carte blanche to pretty much just go berserk on it, and that's really fun and interesting. And I guess I want to know what's your thoughts on it, and also how did students react to it, and how do you think the community also react to it?
Okay, that's a lot of questions.
Yes, it is, sir.
Let me answer them one by one, if I remember them. So first of all, after writing the scenario, I was sitting, when I say we, that's you, Ricardo, and I.
It's basically us.
We were sitting at a restaurant just thinking about how we could actually fill in the scenario. And we decided on these three characters. Of course, it would be nice to have, a full feature film or a full, full feature anime that's split up along the course. That's of course not possible. So we decided to work with volunteers because we don't really have a budget. And so part of the things are colleagues who volunteered, and we asked them, and they happily always said, "Okay, this is a good idea. I like the idea," and so. We have an avatar, which is me, and an avatar of one of our colleagues. And then we have some newscasters, which are also colleagues. And then we actually wanted to have students participate. But because of the current restrictions, we just worked with people who are at the fringe of the university, let's say. So we knew them and we had them participate in the cinematography. And that worked really well. I mean, everybody was really enthusiastic about this project. That made it a lot easier. If people wouldn't have believed in it, I think, then it would be more difficult to get them to engage as much. So thanks, of course, to the ILH, the Innovative Learning Hub.
Yes, indeed.
Hub that for providing this opportunity. And I understand you when you said carte blanche. I mean, I also got carte blanche from, I think, the university community and from the Innovative Learning Hub. Yeah. And I think that's also what made this a big success, because in a part it looks like it's art integration. Yeah, definitely. Together to hardcore academic content. And that's something, I mean, at least for me, was relatively new, but I believe that's really the way forward, maybe also for other classes. Yeah,
how do you think the kids reacted to it?
Yeah, so that was interesting, because I didn't play the cinema or like these avatars in the classroom, because we are doing these remote sessions. Sure. So it was a little bit tricky to see what their reaction is. Some actually gave a positive reaction. Some didn't really talk about it. I didn't actually press on, you like this or not, because for me it's kind of a story that's in the background that helps them to put things together. So I don't really need to press and ask, so what do you think about the assets itself? Right. But let me explain, for instance, one of the things which is helpful. That is that one of the characters, which we call the Doctor, he explicitly talks about intended learning outcomes. You know what the intended learning outcomes are?
Yes, I do, but maybe the viewers don't. You can talk a little bit about that and constructive alignment, for example, if you want.
All right, so the idea is that each of the sessions has a intended learning outcome, which we call a silo. So S stands for session. Yes. And that helps the students to know what they actually have to attain. And it also helps if you make this explicit and you put this on camera. Then it also helps the lecturer or the convener of this class to stick to that pace. Okay. And then these intended learning outcomes, they come with an assessment task. So these assessment tasks are also kind of gamified, or they are also put in the cinema. And that helps not just to motivate or engage the students, but it also brings them to that level that they understand what they need to attain for their grades, because grades are always important for the students.
Definitely, yeah, that's the end game for them, obviously. Right. So what do you think it's the future for this module will be? I mean, we talked a little bit together during the preparations at the restaurant, because we're having a lot of pizza during the preparation for this for the materialization. Margarita. That's all I eat. Pizza is life. I'm not gonna cut this part. It's gonna stay like that.
All right.
Anyway, so what you're talking about, cohorts of students building upon the knowledge. We discussed this previously, and I think this is important for you to mention, because I think it's a key issue of a key issue in a good way. Yeah, a positive key issue of the strategy that you put for this course.
All right. You're mentioning cohort after cohort. We discussed this before, but. For me, this is a project that's collaborative and also open-ended. I find that important, that the students can participate over time, and that when they do something, when they make a contribution, that we pick that contribution up and then give that to the next cohort. So the next cohort can develop on what the previous students have been doing. So that's kind of satisfying for the previous cohort. Right. And it's also motivating for the next cohort. So we have, for the cinematographic part, we have now about 5 or 6 of the sessions have these clips. The idea would be to have the current students or the next generation students involved in building out the next cinematography. So, of course, we don't want to overload them.
Sure.
The core is, of course, the academic content. But I guess there will be some of the students who are interested in that. Or they could be students who are living on campus and they do want to do film, or they want to work with creative media.
Sure.
To engage them in this, that would be really great.
Yeah.
And then, so it's also structured a bit because course content is changing over time. And like it might be that 1 year, the course content has 5 modules, and then something becomes a little bit more advanced. So the course content is going to change over time. So what we try to do is keep these cinemas or these avatars relatively flexible. So the cinema should stand, but the avatars can kind of like start talking a little bit differently over time. And then the second thing I think that's important is that we see this or I see this as a template for maybe other classes. This is now implemented for Master of Finance programs. And maybe this is not probably the best match, but it did work.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that this format could be a great motivator for, let's say, general education classes, or when we have cross-disciplinary courses that are introduced in the curriculum.
Yeah.
Or we can basically have thinking about like generation students or something.
Right.
And that would be great if we can use that format also for different classes to get the community engaged and to have the people and students really motivated.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. So there's lots of teaching strategies that you use. Yeah, gamification, active learning. Can you talk a little bit about them? And did you think about this before you started weaving the storyline, or it was something that just?
All right. I mean, I like gamify. And the other concept you mentioned. I thought of this from the perspective of assurance of learning. When I was in Hong Kong previously, we were kind of heavily involved in accreditation and so on. So this assurance of learning is a big part of accreditation for programs. So that's why we have these ILOs, these intended learning outcomes there. Yeah. And then, so the entire concept basically started, how can we bring these learning outcomes to the students, and how can we match these assessments? Because students do tasks, they have to do homework. But now the homeworks kind of fit in the storyline. So they do things which we visualize in the cinematography, or which is kind of declared during when the avatars are talking. So that means that these assessments are pretty much aligned automatically because we have this, you can't change it anymore. They're aligned with these outcomes, and that's part of this assurance of learning. And I guess that's where we started from. The important part for me is that it's a little bit arty, and because when we engage people, especially when we have to work with volunteers, then there has to be another aspect to it to engage the community in participating with this. So that's more or less where we came from and where we stand. Right.
Do you think that if there was a budget available, we would go into different heights, and if so, what to where?
Yeah. So this is a pilot, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
we banked a lot on the goodwill of people. I think it's also because it was novel that it's easier to get people engaged.
Yeah.
I mean, we did notice that, like one of our actresses, we asked her a couple of times. I mean, she was kind enough to do this for us.
Sure.
Of course, you cannot just keep on asking people to do this for free.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I mean, I guess for this is kind of like a production house. I mean, we need to have a budget for this. Also, we are now banking on the ILH. I mean, you put quite some time in this. I mean, it was because it's a new kind of idea. It probably works fine with you, but I don't know how this internally works within the university. So I'm of course happy with this carte blanche, and I think it was really cool. But when this gets formalized, or when this is more like a production house that's working for different courses, then I guess there should be a budget attached to that.
Sure, definitely. I agree. So how do you think this will impact the academic community in, well, not in terms of students, but in terms of faculty? So when other people see that and they do exactly what you do for a living.
Yeah, academics are an interesting breed. So
indeed.
So there's so many different types of teaching or methodologies, and some people want to stick to one particular model, and others have their own ideas.
Right.
But I think I talked to some people, and actually one of the other award winners was before he first was laughing. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna make some cartoons," and then when we explained actually how it was set up, he thought, "Well, this is a really great idea. We can use this also in our programs." So I'm kind of banking or hoping that some people look at this template and say, "Well, you know, when we're building a program, we might as well put a storyline in it." Right. And then work with us maybe to see if we can contribute also on the creative part or story writing.
No, yeah, I understand. Well, ILH was always on board with this. Duncan was super happy to support us, and he saw that this could be an interesting, quirky thing. And so from the beginning, I mean, I was excited because I thought, well, there's a lot of space here to improvise and to do something that hasn't been done, at least here at NU. And I think the impact is going to be great in the long term. Not so much maybe in the short term, but maybe it will have some sort of ripple effect. And
I hope so. I think it was a very genuine effort that we put into it.
Yeah,
basically we barged in and we made it. So what I appreciated was also that you said, okay, when we're going to do this cinema, it has to be good. I don't want to be associated with something that looks like just sloppily made, because, you know, I have a career too, and I understand that. And that was the same thing from my perspective.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of set the standard, and that's a good thing. And I think the you know, it's a project that's within a program. It's not something, it's not actually totally standalone.
Right.
What I mean is not something that is distance learning. It could be made into distance learning as well.
Sure.
But we're here at NU, and in principle this is an in-person university, so it's actually made for that purpose. But it could be extended. I mean, if NU ever thinks about making distance learning, that could be like a way to motivate students as well. I mean, I took some classes just to see what people are doing with this distance learning or remote learning. Yeah. And I mean, it's good, but I think there is a storyline lacking. It's a little bit too it's more boring than I actually had expected. I mean, when you read their storylines or what they're promising, and then when you actually take these classes, it could be better. And I think we give a nice assist for other people who want to do these things, to think about what is possible.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, but in terms of MOOCs, for example, you're suggesting something like that, or when you say distance learning?
Now you're testing my knowledge of innovative learning. MOOCs.
No, I mean those online courses.
No, sure.
I'm sure you know.
Yeah, no, I was following through some different platforms. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I don't want to. I actually not an expert on this online platforms or comparing them. But what I just want to say is that it's possible to actually extend our suggestions to these platforms as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in terms of media assets, just so I speak a little bit of my métier, my field of expertise, I did say that if we're going to do something, it has to be done properly, because I see a lot of content on the internet, done by very, very popular universities that are highly ranked, and sometimes the audio is not great, or the picture is blurred, or it's a low quality picture, or just a green screen thing in the background, and just a talking head saying some stuff that is quite accurate, but there's no heart, no panache, no vibe. There's nothing there that will keep young kids actually in tune with what's happening, what the facilitator is trying to convey, right? And I remember that I told you as a joke a couple of weeks ago, the medium is the message, remember? And we were joking about that stuff. And the medium does change the message in some way, right? Depending on what medium we are using to carry the message that we want to carry. So I thought, all right, let's try to make this as, high quality as possible in terms of the resources that we have, the cinematic, and to also because I wanted you to be proud of the materialization of your idea in terms of narrative and storytelling. You know what I mean? Okay. So for me, it was really important to make this as 5 minutes later, as high quality as possible. Within the budget constraints, within the equipment constraints, and the personnel constraints. And we had a lot of constraints, but that's why I was very happy when you got the award, because I thought, all right. In spite of the constraints, putting heart was rewarded with something that potentially will also impact other people in the community, I guess, like students, faculty, etc. Okay. All right. I'm rambling now and stuff. No, I'm supposed to interview you.
That's cool. Can we have a small break here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we go out for a commercial. After this, we come back.
Boom. Stay tuned for more. Vinaimont will be back.
This is an automated message. Because of technical issues, our operators are not able to answer your call. Please leave a message after the beep. Beep!
All right, hey, welcome back. I'm not Ricardo, this is Ricardo. I'm Tom. I'm just going to ask some questions now. I had to write them down. I'm not really used to asking questions. How was the experience?
The experience was great, actually. It was really, really fun. It was innovative, and I learned a lot from you when it comes to the pedagogy. I know that you have a lot of experience from other gigs, and I thought that I could contribute more at first with the media side of things. Mm-hmm. But then also because you open up space for me to be part of the building process, I was really excited to also give my 2 cents of what was my prior, educational experiences as an instructor and also as a faculty member in other past lives. Yeah. So overall, it was exciting and it was cool, and I'm looking forward to doing next projects with you or to gather new projects with you.
All right. So ILH, Innovative Learning Hub. Mm-hmm. That's 3 words.
Yeah.
If you would put 3 words on the project that we did, what 3 words would you choose?
Interesting. All right. Quirky.
Okay, quirky.
Can I start? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'll give you like 10 seconds.
Oh, just 10 seconds, like in
okay, go ahead.
Like in Jeopardy, those competitions on TV. No, I think it was quirky. I think it was immersive. And I think it was pedagogically sound. I know it's 2 words, but...
Well, KIP, or so we have QIMP, KIP.
Yeah, KIP. Okay, cool. I think it was KIP.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
Interesting.
All right.
All right, so we did this, I think we jumped in. Mm-hmm. We did this very genuinely, very, very seriously.
Right.
We also had a lot of fun doing this, which is important. But let's say, if you had a budget available for this, what would you do differently? If we had actually, instead of just jumping in and doing step by step and just filling things in as a kind of for a pilot, if you could have prepared for it and there was a budget, what would you do differently?
Right. So before we cut for break, I explained a little bit my rationale for the high quality innovative media assets or other related media assets that we had, because it was not just video, right? But if there was a budget, I think we could potentially gamify this to the extent where we would actually create a video game.
Okay.
I think it would be really cool to create a proper video game, like a role-playing game, right? Where students are their own avatars, and you can actually interact with a computer program, right? Where we have the Forge in the outer space, we have the doc showing up whenever it's necessary to conduct business, and we have the lawyer coming up. And so actually we have everything that is necessary, and we kind of did a mock-up of a video game, since you gamified your entire course, right? So I think that it would be really interesting if we could go one step further and actually create a small video game that could then be put online, and you could actually use that as part of the constructive alignment steps that we just, or areas that we just described previously. Actually, you described previously in the first part of this interview, right? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah. So that's, I think you're drawing an interesting path there. And let me just tell you something about what the plans are for the future, actually.
All right, firsthand.
Well, we hadn't really thought totally about the making a video game out of it. But the idea is that the contributions of these students they code, they write some code and so on, that over time we actually develop code so that they can do things in practice. Cool. So it's I think the video game is a really great idea because there's a lot of entertainment in there. Yeah. But the idea is also that we take them actually to the industry and have them cooperate with the industry and the industry cooperate with them to create, for instance, a trading room where they can do these actual trades.
Oh, cool.
And then see how things work out. Right. So I think thinking about the video game is great, and we should probably think about how we can go about with this, and then see how this fits in with the industry efforts as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to bring industry into the classroom as well, because in the end, our students are going to be hired by that industry, and so they kind of set the standards for what we as facilitators should actually give to them, right? I guess, I don't know, you tell me. So
I think thanks
you don't want to continue further. No. Just cutting.
Thanks for the ILH to make this contribution, and because I'm asking the questions, so I'm in charge of the time here. But so next time I hope we can have an interview with even more people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that this project kind of takes off. Thank you very much, Ricardo, for this interview.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure.
You want to switch seats again?
No, now you have to just go there and just finish it up.
How do I do that?
I don't know, just cover it up.